Hi everyone, this is Shelly from Koala Knits and Knacks, and I'm going to show you how I make my snout for, I don't know what else to call it, I just call it a snout, that I put on a lot of my projects. Like I make infant bear hats, and I use this crocheted piece to put on the front where I put the nose and the mouth on. And I also make the Cuddle bears, koala bears that I use this for. And I've got some sleepy time bears that are on my channel that I use this for. And rather than going through this process on every video, I thought I'm gonna just make a video of it. I changed my YouTube name from Koala Knits to Koala Knits and Knacks because I'm going to be adding some crochet items on there eventually soon too. I love to crochet as well, and it's mostly going to be a knitted channel where like I would say 95% of it's going to be circular knitting, but there will be some crochet items on there as well. So for this snout, let's and maybe other things too, but for this snout, let's go ahead and make a magic circle. So to do that, you're going to hold your end. I hold them with my last two fingers, and then I wrap my yarn around those over the top and around those my other two fingers. Then I come across, making an X across. Then you're going to stick your hook. I'm going to use a 5mm hook is what I use for my phases underneath that first one. Okay, up at the top there. Then I'm going to put my hook over that piece of yarn and I'm going to bring it through, and then I'm going to twist it. Okay, so let me do that again. Put it over that piece of yarn, bring it through, and twist it. Now this is where the tricky part is, because you have to take it off your fingers, you have to bring your working yarn over, and you've got to hold your circle. I pull that working end so it's a little bit shorter, but you got to, or the circle's a little bit smaller and easier to work with. And now you've got your magic circle, just like that. And so then you're going to yarn over and you're going to chain one. Okay, and from there you're going to put 8 single crochets into your circle. Now if you don't know how to find the first one, use a stitch marker. If you have no trouble finding your stitch at the beginning, then you don't need to use a stitch marker. But I'm gonna just pause this video. I'm gonna go grab one just for those of you who are new. It might help you to see the stitch better. Okay, so I've got my magic circle, I've got my chain 1. Okay, now I'm going to single crochet 8 into that circle. So I'm going to put my hook into the circle, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both. That's one single crochet. I was going to just stop and put my stitch marker in, but it's actually easier if you do a couple of them and then you put your stitch marker in. So I've got 3. I'm going to go back, take my stitch marker, put it in that first stitch, and I'm going to carry on. So 3 single crochets. I'm going to pull this a little bit tighter. 3, 4, yarn, hook underneath, pull up, yarn over, pull it up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both on your hook. So I'll maybe go a little slower. Sometimes I go too fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and so then you take the end of your yarn, your tail, and you pull it tight. But before you pull it completely tight, on the first row, then take your end of your hook, and you can pull up on your bobby pin or your yarn marker or stitch marker. Oh yeah, I feel like I'm all hands here. Or you know, just take it out and keep your eye on that stitch, and then insert your hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull it through that loop, and then pull it through that loop that's on your hook as well. That's called a slip stitch. Okay, so we just did a slip stitch to join and then chain 1. We're going to chain 1 at the beginning of every row. Okay, then take that tail and pull on it. You'll feel a little, you pull on it to a certain extent, and then you feel a little like it actually connects. I don't know any better way of saying it, but once it gets as tight as it can get, there'll be like a little connect in there, and then you'll be able to, it'll just stay like that. It's not going to unloosen at all. Okay, so we've got our slip stitch to join, we've got our chain 1, and then in that same stitch there that you did your slip stitch to join, that's our first single crochet that we took our bobby pin out of. We're going to go into that stitch, that same stitch, it's a little tight. We're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. That's your first single crochet, okay? But we're going to increase this row, so we're gonna go into that same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. You got 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through both loops. Now you've done 2 single crochets, 1, 2 in that same stitch. You've just increased. When you do your first increase round, you put 2 single crochets in every stitch. So we're going to end up with 16. I put a stitch marker in my first stitch. Now I'm going to go to the next stitch. I'm going to do the same thing. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. So now I've got 4 in total. Then I'm going to go to the next stitch. 5, 6, I want 16 all together. 7, 8, putting 2 in each single crochet. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then we got 2 more. Get that tail out of the way. 15 and 16. Now you can go back and count them. Make sure you have 16 if you've lost count at any point. Okay, so now you're going to see that, if I can just pull this apart here, you've got your slip stitch from your previous row and your chain 1 is right there. This is your first stitch that your your stitch marker is in. So I'm going to actually take that out. It's hard to get under a bobby pin. And then you're going to do the same thing. Insert your hook into that first stitch, yarn over, pull through that one, and then pull through the loop on your hook. That's called a slip stitch to join, and chain 1. We're going to slip stitch to join and chain 1 on every row, okay? And we're only going to do 1 more increase row, so we're good. So for increasing on, we're gonna actually do 2 more increase rows. We do 1 more increase row for a cuddle bear, but for this sleepy time bear, we have to do 2 increase rows. 2 more increase rows, that is. Okay, so for the second increase row, that means we're on row 3. So an easy way to count that is you put 1 single crochet in the first stitch, 2 in the next. That adds up to 3, right? So row 3, you're gonna count multiples of 3. Then 1 in the next stitch, 1. That's how I do it anyways. And 2 in the next. 2 and 3. Put your stitch marker in if you need to. Oops. I'll go ahead and put that there. And you're going to do 1 stitch in the next. And 2 in the next. All the way around. Then you're going to slip stitch to join. And chain 1, and I'll show you what we do for the next round. Okay, now we're around and we have 24 stitches in our circle, around the outside perimeter of our circle. Now if you're doing a cuddle bear, you will stop here. You'll just fasten off. You'll put your hook through that first hook and you'll draw up a loop and bring it through both and then pull it through and you'll fasten off. That way I'll show you once we get the next row done. But if you're doing like a stuffed animal, like a bigger project, then you're going to want to do 1 more row. Okay, I will specify that on the project when you watch the video. But so we're going to take the hook and put it through that first stitch, slip stitch to join, chain 1. Now we're on row 4, so again we're going to count 1 single crochet in the first one, 1 single crochet in the next one, and 2 in the next. So that equals 4, right? So 1 and 1 and 2. That's how I keep track of what row I'm on. Because to do an increase, you always have to have 2 stitches in 1 stitch. So again, on row 4, we're going to have 1 stitch, and then 2 in the next, and that equals 4. So 1 stitch in that one, 1 stitch in the next one, and 2 in the next. If I'm going to increase 1 more row on my 5th row, I would do 1 stitch, 1 stitch, 1 stitch, and then 2 in the next. That equals 5. And that's just a simple way of knowing how to do increase on each row, and that is how you do it. No matter how many rows you do, you can do 25 rows of increase, and that's what you would do. So if you're trying to make a big circle, if you're making well, that's for another video. Okay, so that's what you do. You go do that and go all the way around, and I'll meet you when you get to the end. So now you've got 32 stitches around your circle there. You're going to insert your hook in the first stitch, yarn over, pull through the loop, and then pull. Don't yarn over again, but you're going to pull through that second loop that's on your hook. Okay, that's like the slip stitch to join. Now you're going to yarn over, just like your chain one, pull through, but you're going to find your scissors. Let's see here. You're going to cut a fairly long end because we need it for sewing. Okay, cut an end, then you're going to pull that through. Now you're going to take a needle and you're going to thread this end that's here, and you're just going to hide it in there just for security reasons. Now, when I do this off camera and doing it just for my own project, I carry this with me on my first row and hide it that way, so that I don't have to do this in the end. But for the sake of this video, I didn't want to do that, just because if you're new, this is an easier way to do it. And once you learn how to do this more, then you'll find your own tricks, and you can actually carry it and hide it. So that's how you make the circle. We're gonna now go ahead and attach it to our project, but before we do that, I want to show you the difference. Like this is a small one. This big one is only one increase row more. I have 3 rows on here and 4 rows on here, and this is how you can count them: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I use this one for my smaller projects, and of course this one for my bigger projects. But I'm going to take the smaller one and show you how I sew it onto a head. Okay, so I just made this head really quickly. It's actually the size of the Cuddle bear heads, but I just, there's no body on it, obviously. I just am doing it for video purposes. Then you put it on your head, and I like to put this little knot at the top because then it's covered later with the black yarn that you're going to use for the nose. Okay, so then you put that, line that up where you want it, then you just go underneath, grab a stitch, and come through. Okay, go underneath, grab a stitch, come through. You do that all the way around on every stitch, and that's how you secure it. Don't go way up here and secure it and have let's go into the next stitch, sorry. Don't go way up here and secure it and then have a line that's showing like that. I think that just really takes away from the look of your face, of the head. So go closer to the outside of the circle here. Just grab a stitch, go underneath your stitch, and do it that way. And then it looks like it's a part of the face here. It doesn't look, you don't see those lines everywhere. So that's how I do it. So continue doing that all the way around, and then I'll show you how I put the nose and the eyes on. I've made it all around my project, and you can just see all those stitches are beautifully hidden. It just makes a more appealing look to your eye than seeing those lines come across. So then what I do is I just slip my needle underneath one of those stitches up there. Oops, I guess I should have a little bigger tail on here. I, first of all, will apologize for this table moving around a little bit. I have one of those little just a little black, it's got a black top, but it's what you put your plate on when you're eating. It's a lap table, I guess is the word I'm looking for, on my knee to do this video. I have this lap table on my knee, and whenever I move my legs, it moves the table a little bit, and so I'm very sorry if that's distracting. I always try to make sure that my videos are pretty still. Okay, so then you just put it underneath, pull it through, and cut it off. Okay. And there you go. That's how you attach that part. Now we're going to go ahead and yarn your needle, or thread your needle with your black yarn, and we're going to make the face. So in order to make the face, you're going to, whatever yarn color you use, of course, works. For most of my projects, I have either a brownish color or a black, but you're going to need a fairly lengthy piece of yarn that you cut off, and I'm going to go in the side of the head here somewhere, and I'm going to come up right in the middle, right there. I'm using a bigger needle than I used to sew the circle on, but I'm going to come up right there. There's the middle there. I'm going to come right up above that. Okay. and make sure it's centered there. Okay, pull my yarn through. I grabbed way too big of a piece, long of a piece, but that's okay. And then you're going to visualize where you want your V to be. And if you make it too small, you can always make it bigger later. So better to go too small than too big to start out with. And I'm going to just go across like that. Back into that same place where I came out of. And then I usually go up to the middle there, right along the edge of where you seamed the white piece on. Pull that through. I've done so many of these that now, like, I pretty much can get it right the first time, but that's looking like it's going to be the perfect size of V. But again, if you get it wrong, you just add to the sides to get it to where you want it to be, starting out smaller than what you think it. Better to start out small than to get too big, because then you have to rip it out. Easier to add on to it than to take off. Okay, and then you start filling it in. Okay, so now I've done the center. I'm coming over to the side there, and then I'm coming up, and I'm going to go over to this side. There's no rhyme or reason to this, really. I mean, there is and there isn't. I like to make sure that one side isn't way thicker than the other side, so I try to go across from one to the next until I have it filled in. I don't like to have layer upon layer upon layer. I like to just keep it one layer as much as possible. And then once you go right across and fill in most of the white, then if you see any peeping through, then you can go and put another row in there just to cover it up, okay? And just you work it along like that, like I just did. I just poked my needle in there to make sure that it was lining up the way I want it to line up. I think when you take the time to do all these little things that you think might not make a difference, in the end it actually does make a difference. Rather than just going back and forth, you see how that went over top and it's all you know, it layered on top. You want to take that off. You want to move it over, get it lined up there the way you want it to be, and then continue. Take your time, do a nice job, and you'll have a more professional looking piece when you're done. Okay, so there you go. Professional is not the right word. I don't like to use that word. You'll have a more beautifully constructed piece. Okay? We're just all everyday people. We don't have to have these things professional. We want to have fun while we're doing it. We want to enjoy it, but we also want to make it as beautiful as we can. So there we go. And you go back and forth until you fill that in, and then I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm ready to put my last piece on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into that same space that I came out of, and then I'm going to follow this line right here. I'm going to go right down till I can get, this is the first bump, then the second bump. So 2 rows down, I'm going to go into that space, finish off my top of my nose. Then I'm going to turn this again. I'm going to go back into that center point that I have, and I'm going to come up. Now, before I do that, I'm going to come up to do my eyes. Now, I like my eyes to be fairly close to the edge of this nose, so I just go up a little bit. So just in and up a little bit, and when I do my eyes, I go across 3 of these little rows. Okay, that's how I visualize it. So it's 1.5 stitches. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go up. I'm going to come up just a little bit. There's my mouth. I'm going to go and add another row to that at the end. I'm going to turn this. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Hang on, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to come back up right where I went out. Okay. I'm not going to pull that so tight that it pulls these stitches together. I'm just till it snugs up to the body there, or to the head. Then I'm going to go back in there. I'm going to come over to this side and do the same thing. Eyeball it about there, I would say. Turn it around. Just pull ever so gently. 1, 2, 3. Back up. Then I'm going to go back down into that same spot, up into the middle of this nose again, right here. Okay? And then I'm going to go back down into this point and out where I came in on the side there. So you need a fairly long needle so you can get to it. Okay, pull it out. And you'll see my mouth is double-stranded now too. I'm going to cut this off just a little bit so I can more easily work with it. What happened to my needle? Oh, I just dropped it on the floor. 1 second. There we go. Then I'm going to thread those 2 needle ends. Poke it through that same hole that they're coming out of. Go to the back of the head and pull it through. Then go back and just fix that there. Give it a snip. Hide those yarn ends. And that's how it's done. Now once you're completed your project and you're looking at it, I did see a couple, I saw the white poking through right there, so I just added another piece of yarn and filled that in, and then just played with this a little bit and it covered it up, and it's done. So now I got to figure out what I'm going to do with this little lonely head. But that's how I do my heads, and then I add my ears, of course, and your bear comes together beautifully. So thanks for watching this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped you out. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I ask that you would do that. I would really appreciate it. Thanks for your support, and thanks for watching. Take care, guys. Have a great day.